My name is Rachel Miles, and for 3 years I had given everything I had, every breath, every ounce of focus, every piece of myself, to a law firm that never once missed an opportunity to remind me I wasn't a partner, wasn't a Peterman, wasn't family. 3 years of 70-hour weeks, 3 years of vacations canceled before they began, 3 years of building systems, saving deals, carrying clients through midnight crises, always with the belief that, eventually, competence would be rewarded. And then, on the morning I was meant to close the biggest deal of my career, it all ended. The email came at 9:47 a.m., a bland notification from Jake Peterman's office. Please come to my office immediately. Jake Peterman, 28 years old, Stanford dropout, son of the founding partner, installed 6 weeks ago as executive director after what the firm newsletter laughably called an extensive national search. Translation: the boss's kid had spent 5 years finding himself in Bali, and now daddy decided it was time to hand him the keys. I stared at the screen, rereading the single line. No explanation. No hint of urgency. Just the imperious demand of someone who believed his last name was qualification enough. I saved my work. The Hartley Industries acquisition, a $12 million deal I had shepherded through 3 months of grueling negotiations, and stood. My jacket felt heavier than usual as I straightened it. The hallway stretched long and sterile, each step echoing louder in my ears than the last. Jake's corner office used to belong to a partner with 30 years of experience. Now the shelves where leather-bound law volumes once stood were replaced with motivational posters. Disrupt, innovate, synergize. A pudding green sat where client files had been reviewed. When I knocked, Jake didn't bother to look up. He was scrolling his phone, designer sneakers propped arrogantly on the mahogany desk his father had imported from Italy. Sit, he said, gesturing vaguely. The chair across from him was deliberately lower than his own. Cheap theatrics, a power play straight out of a bad movie. Finally, he set the phone with an air of martyrdom, as if acknowledging my existence was a favor. Rachel, he drawled, we need to discuss your future here. I kept my tone steady. Is there an issue with the Hartley acquisition? It's not about a specific deal. He leaned back, fingers steepled, eyes glinting with smug satisfaction. It's about cultural fit, dynamic synergy, the direction we're taking the firm. Cultural fit. My stomach turned. I had billed more hours than any non-partner for 3 consecutive years. My client retention rate was 94%, and this child wanted to talk about synergy? I'm not following, I said carefully. You're competent, he said, letting the word drip like an insult. No one's saying you're not competent, but Peterman Legal is evolving. We need team players who understand innovation, people who think outside the box. I bit my tongue. Clients didn't pay law firms for innovation. They paid us to think inside very specific statutory boxes. That was the whole point. What are you saying, Jake? Today is your last day. Security will escort you out after you sign this. He slid a packet across the desk. Non-disclosure agreement. Non-compete clause. 3 months severance if I went quietly. The words swam in front of me. You're firing me? The week before Hartley closes? Tori will handle the transition. I blinked. Tori? My girlfriend, he said with the faintest curl of a smile. She'll be taking over your files. Tori, the paralegal who had started 4 weeks ago. The one who still couldn't format a memo properly, who thought whereas was spelled where is. The one I had once caught using ChatGPT to write client correspondence. She doesn't have a law license, I said flatly. She legally can't. That's no longer your concern, Jake cut me off, eyes sliding back to his phone. You have 1 hour to clear your office. And Rachel? His grin was all teeth, no warmth. The NDA is non-negotiable. You discuss client matters, we'll bury you in litigation. Daddy's firm has very deep pockets. I don't remember standing. I don't remember walking back down the hallway, past colleagues who suddenly couldn't meet my eyes. I only remember the silence, heavy, suffocating, as I packed 3 years of my life into a banker's box. My personal laptop. My phone, with the numbers of every client who had ever called me at 2 in the morning. My notebooks, scrawled full of details no database could capture. My coffee mug, world's okayest lawyer. Security hovered, arms crossed, as if I might bolt with state secrets. But the truth was simpler, sharper. What mattered most couldn't be boxed up. The trust I'd earned, the relationships I had built. The knowledge in my head. When I handed over my key card and stepped into the marble lobby, I passed the towering portraits of 3 generations of Petermans staring down with cold, painted eyes. For the first time, I didn't feel small beneath them. Jake thought he had exiled me. He had forgotten what I still carried with me. By 2:15 p.m., I sat in my home office, suit jacket still on, staring at the box like it might explain how my life had been dismantled in a single morning. Shock dulled quickly into something sharper. Anger. Clarity. I opened my laptop. First, the documents. Over 3 years, I had built a comprehensive system of templates, checklists, and negotiation frameworks. The firm never asked me to transfer them to their servers, likely because no one there recognized their value. They lived in my personal cloud, time-stamped, organized, and indisputably mine. Second, the contacts. I scrolled through my phone. Patricia Hartley, David Kim at Nexus Industries, Sarah Rodriguez at Blackstone Holdings. 41 names. 41 direct lines. These weren't networking acquaintances. They were people who texted me photos of their kids, who had invited me to weddings, who trusted me with their corporate secrets because I had proven myself at 2 a.m. when everything was falling apart. Third, the knowledge. A spreadsheet began to take form. Every active deal, every quirk, every preference. Johnson Tech insisted everything be signed in blue ink. Meridian Corp only held board meetings before 10 a.m. because of their London headquarters. Hartley Industries had 17 contracts I had quietly amended to remove a hidden arbitration clause that could have bankrupted them. Details no one else knew. Details no one could possibly transfer in a 1-hour handoff to a paralegal who thought force majeure was French for big force. At 5:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. Rachel, the new lawyer, just asked me what force majeure means. Please tell me this is a joke. Patricia Hartley. My chest tightened. Technically, responding would violate the NDA, but sympathy for a friend? That wasn't prohibited. I'm no longer with Peterman Legal as of today. I hope your deal proceeds smoothly. The reply came instantly. What? Call me now. I'm bound by certain agreements. I can't discuss specifics. Can you discuss anything over coffee as friends? I smiled for the first time all day. As friends? Always. By 8 o'clock, 6 more clients had messaged me, each carefully worded, each acknowledging what had happened, each opening the door just enough. Jake Peterman thought he had fired a replaceable cog. What he didn't understand, what the Petermans had never understood, was that law firms weren't about names on letterhead. They were about trust, about the voice that picked up the phone at 3 in the morning, about the person who knew instinctively which clause could sink a deal before anyone else saw it coming. They had marble floors, an army of associates, and a building that bore their name. I had everything else. 3 days into unemployment, I found myself sitting across from Martin Bailey, the senior partner of Bailey & Locke LLP, in a conference room that smelled of leather, old wood, and quiet power. He studied me over his reading glasses, expression unreadable. Rachel Miles, he said slowly, like he'd been waiting for this meeting for years. I've been wondering when you'd finally leave that circus. I didn't flinch. I'm exploring options, consulting maybe, independent work. His mouth tugged into the faintest smile. Independent work with your client relationships? I kept my reply neutral. I maintain personal friendships with many Houston executives. Naturally, those friendships persist regardless of my employment status. Martin was 71, sharp as a scalpel, a man who had built his firm from nothing and kept it alive in a city where competitors devoured each other like wolves. He understood exactly what I was saying without saying it. Hypothetically, he said, leaning back, if Bailey & Locke were to bring on an independent consultant, someone with extensive contract experience and relationships, how might that work? I breathed in slowly, choosing each word. Such an arrangement would need to respect any existing agreements. No direct solicitation, no sharing of proprietary information. But if clients were to independently seek out that consultant, they'd need representation. They'd need options. Martin poured water into a crystal glass. His hand didn't shake. Hypothetically, he let the word hang there like bait. That night in the parking garage beneath his building, I sat in my car staring at my phone. The messages had piled up in an avalanche. Patricia Hartley, deal fell through. New lawyer missed a critical deadline. Board is furious. David Kim, urgent issue with our contracts. Can we talk? Rachel, please tell me you're still practicing somewhere. Tori just asked if contracts need to be notarized. God help us all. And one from an unknown number. Miss Miles, I'm general counsel at Traverse Industries. Patricia Hartley suggested I reach out. Are you taking new clients? Traverse Industries, $20 billion in revenue. A whale that had never even sniffed at Peterman Legal. The smart play would have been to wait. Play it safe. Let the non-compete run its 18 months. But safety meant watching everything I had built collapse in the hands of incompetence. Safety meant letting clients burn while Jake played dress-up with Daddy's firm. I called Martin Bailey. That was fast, he answered. I accept, I said, with conditions. I won't solicit Peterman clients, but if they come to me, I'll represent them. And if Peterman wants a fight, they'd better bring more than Daddy's money and empty threats. Martin chuckled. Welcome to Bailey and Locke, counselor. Can you start Monday? I can start now. The first domino fell at 3:22 a.m. on a Tuesday. Sarah Rodriguez of Blackstone Holdings texted me in a panic. Rachel, I know it's late, but we just got a compliance notice from the state. Our lawyers say it's nothing, but the potential fine is 7 figures. Can you take a look? Their lawyers, of course, were still Peterman Legal. I told her to send it over. No charge, just peace of mind for a friend. The problem leapt off the page. Blackstone's customer data retention policies hadn't been updated since 2019, blatantly violating the Texas Data Privacy Act amendments. It was exactly the sort of gap I'd flagged in a memo 8 months ago, a memo Jake probably deleted without reading. Sarah, I typed back, this is serious. You need specialized privacy counsel immediately. Day 45 of your notice period is Thursday. By morning, Blackstone Holdings had retained Bailey and Locke. Peterman was out. The files they sent over as part of the transition? A disaster. Outdated templates, boilerplate garbage, nothing resembling the comprehensive audit I had begged the firm to conduct. We worked for 72 hours straight, caffeine and adrenaline carrying me through the haze. 12 hours before the deadline, we filed the response that spared Blackstone a $2 million fine. Sarah called me Friday, her voice thick with relief. Rachel, you just saved us more than Peterman billed us in 5 years. I'm telling every CEO I know. Sarah, no buts. I'm not soliciting you. I'm just telling my peers where to find competent counsel. What they do with that information is their business. And just like that, the second domino tipped. By Monday, David Kim of Nexus Industries had discovered his own crisis. Export compliance violations buried in the same outdated Peterman templates. By Wednesday, I'd built what I called the regulatory alert system. Anonymous bulletins sent to Houston corporations warning about recent changes in law. No client information, no confidential data, just public notices highlighting where businesses might be at risk. You're playing with fire, Martin warned, skimming one of my carefully worded alerts. Every regulation I cite is public record. If Peterman's clients realize their lawyers aren't keeping up, that's on Peterman. He studied me for a long moment, then signed off. Send them. The exodus began. Quietly at first. A call here, an inquiry there. We're exploring specialized counsel. Our board is requesting competitive bids. Corporate code for we've lost faith in our lawyers. Inside Peterman, panic boiled. Marcus fed me texts like breadcrumbs. Emergency all hands. Jake screaming about loyalty. Tori crying in the bathroom. 3 senior associates quit today. I saved every message. Documentation, just in case. Peterman struck back exactly as we expected. A cease and desist. They accused me of violating the non-compete, stealing trade secrets, orchestrating mass client theft. Janet Walsh, Bailey & Locke's head litigator, assembled the defense team. They're claiming you used proprietary Peterman methodologies to steal clients, she explained. What methodologies? I shot back. Their outdated templates? Their missed deadlines? I pulled up my cloud storage, showing her time-stamped files. My own templates, built on personal time, years before Jake even set foot in the firm. Emails where I'd offered to implement firm-wide systems, only to be brushed off with, why fix what isn't broken? Janet grinned. It's broken now. And then the unthinkable. 9 clients left Peterman in a single week. 32 more requested proposals. The walls of Peterman Legal weren't just cracking, they were crumbling. The day Jake stormed into Bailey and Locke was the day I knew he'd lost control. He barged into Martin's office without knocking, suit rumpled, eyes bloodshot. His finger trembled as he pointed at me. You, he spat. You destroyed everything. 41 clients, Rachel. 41. Janet's voice was silk smooth as she cut him off. Mr. Peterman, any communication should go through counsel. Counsel? Jake barked. She sabotaged us. Corporate espionage? I'll sue her into bankruptcy. Janet leaned forward, unshaken, looking forward to discovery, particularly the part where we examine why Miss Miles was terminated and who replaced her, and that person's qualifications. Jake blanched. Discovery meant depositions. Depositions meant Tory. His jaw worked soundlessly. Finally, he muttered, "This isn't over." Martin's voice was calm, merciless. Your father built a respectable firm, Jake. You destroyed it in 6 months. Rachel just refused to sink with the ship. When Jake slammed the door on his way out, the windows rattled. His threats, for the first time, sounded hollow. The real war began in federal court. Peterman Legal, now desperate, hired Bradford and Associates, the legal equivalent of a hired gun. 6 partners, 12 associates. Enough paper filings to deforest a small country. Our side, leaner, smarter. Peterman, the damage is done. Peterman. He swallowed hard. For the first time, he looked less like a titan of industry and more like an old man staring at the ruins of his life's work. When I walked away, my phone buzzed. Joyce Brennan of Traverse Industries, emergency consortium meeting tomorrow. Time to decide how this story ends. The consortium's war room was perched high above downtown Houston, in the glass tower of Traverse Industries. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Peterman Legal Building 6 blocks away, its nameplate still gleaming in the sun, oblivious to the rotten side. 23 executives filled the room, CEOs, general counsels, board members. The air was thick with money, power, and something sharper, revenge. Joyce Brennan, general counsel of Traverse, didn't bother with pleasantries. Peterman Legal is finished. The only question is whether we let them die slowly or end it cleanly. Buyout versus collapse. The room erupted into debate. Buyout means stability, one CEO argued. Collapse sends a message, countered another. Patricia Hartley leaned forward, her voice calm but cutting. If we let them fail, every firm in Texas will think twice before firing competence for nepotism. Then all eyes turned to me. The irony burned like fire in my chest. The woman Jake had fired for lacking cultural fit now held the deciding vote over whether his family's legacy survived or died. I thought of Marcus and the other associates, good lawyers, good people, caught in the undertow of Jake's arrogance. I thought of the staff, the paralegals, the IT team, who would lose their jobs if the firm collapsed. I thought of William Peterman, who had built something over 40 years only to watch his son turn it to ash in 6 months. And I thought of Jake himself, feet on his father's desk, firing me with a smirk, convinced I was nothing but a cog he could discard. Buyout, I said at last, but with conditions. Any partner who enabled Jake's behavior gets nothing. Every employee who wants to leave gets full severance. And Jake signs a public statement admitting his role in the collapse. Silence blanketed the room. Then Joyce smiled like a wolf. Done. They can choose dignity or bankruptcy. The negotiations were held in neutral territory at Baker Botts, a hushed ballroom of a law office with more chandeliers than common sense. William Peterman walked in with 2 lawyers at his side. He looked a decade older than when I'd last seen him. Hair thinner, face gaunter, pride battered but not extinguished. Joyce opened with a sledgehammer. Complete asset transfer. Partners forfeit their capital accounts. Employees offered new positions elsewhere. William, you keep your retirement. Jake gets nothing except this. She slid a single sheet across the table. Jake's confession. A statement of failure drafted in legalese but clear enough to damn him forever. William read it, jaw tightening. This will destroy him. No firm will ever hire him again. Joyce's tone was merciless. He destroyed himself. We're just writing it down. If we refuse? William asked. Then bankruptcy court strips you bare by Friday? Joyce said. Your choice. For a long moment, the room held its breath. Then William picked up the pen. His hand trembled as he signed. By noon the next day, the headline was everywhere. Peterman Legal dissolves amid leadership scandal. 41 clients transferred smoothly to new firms. 87 employees were offered jobs. And Jake? His name? once gilded, was now synonymous with hubris and incompetence. Marcus texted me that afternoon. Got an offer from Morrison Klein, senior associate. Thank you. I replied simply, you earned it. And then came the kicker. Jake's working at his uncle's car dealership. Tori dumped him. I laughed until tears burned my eyes. Weeks later, I stood in the corner office of Bailey and Locke, my office now, watching the Peterman building sit dark and empty. A for lease sign glared from its marble lobby where portraits of 3 generations once stared down. Martin entered without knocking, grinning like a proud father. Full partnership vote was unanimous. Congratulations, partner Miles. I blinked. Partner? You brought in $40 million in billings, revolutionized our compliance practice, crushed one of Houston's oldest firms in open combat. What more do you want? I smiled. Southeast corner office. I want to look at the wreckage every day. Martin laughed. Done. But I surprised even myself when I added softly, actually, I don't need to see it. I already know what happens to places that forget why they exist. 6 months later, I was preparing my keynote for Bailey and Locke's new associate orientation when my assistant knocked. Miss Miles, your 5 o'clock is here. I turned, expecting a client. Instead, William Peterman stepped through the door. Retirement had softened him. His posture was still proud, but his eyes were tired. Rachel, he said, may I sit? I gestured to the chair opposite my desk, set deliberately at equal height. No power plays here. I owe you an apology, he began. You don't owe me anything. I do. I built my firm on one principle. Take care of your people, and they'll take care of your clients. Somewhere along the way, I forgot, and I let my son forget. His voice cracked. The day before Jake fired you, I called him from Italy, told him to promote you to junior partner. I said you were the future of the firm. Something twisted inside me. Junior partner. One promotion, one choice, and everything might have been different. What did he say? I asked quietly. That you were too rigid, too focused on details, that the firm needed fresh perspectives. William gave a bitter laugh. Fresh perspectives. His girlfriend couldn't spell whereas. We sat in silence for a moment. I didn't come here just to apologize, he said finally. I came to thank you. You could have let us bleed out for years, but you ended it quickly, merciful in a way. I shook my head. I didn't do it for mercy. I know, but the result was the same. Clients are safer. Employees landed on their feet. Even Jake. Well, maybe selling cars will teach him what the law never could. He stood, pausing at the door. You understood something my son never did. Clients didn't follow you because you stole them. They followed you because you never broke their trust. And then he was gone. That night, I received a text from an unexpected number. Tori here. I know I have no right to ask, but I'm applying to law school. Would you consider writing me a recommendation? For a long moment, I stared at the message. My first instinct was to delete it. The woman who'd sat at my desk while million-dollar deals collapsed now wanted my help. But then William's words came back to me. Trust. Second chances. Send me your application materials. I typed back. We'll discuss it over coffee. Because maybe the law wasn't just about contracts or billable hours. Maybe it was about building something worth protecting, and then protecting it with everything you had. The next day, as I faced a room full of eager new associates, I felt the weight of every step that had brought me here. Good afternoon, I began. Let me tell you the most important lesson you'll ever learn in this profession. It's not about knowing the law. Any AI can do that now. It's not about hours or cases won. It's about trust. Lose that, and you lose everything. Keep it, and you'll build something that lasts. I thought of Jake, selling Toyotas in the suburbs. Of William, retired with nothing but memories of what he once built. Of Tori, starting over. And of the 41 clients who had chosen to follow me into uncertainty, who had given me the chance to build not just a career, but a legacy. As the young lawyers leaned forward to listen, I realized this wasn't just my story anymore. It was theirs. The Petermans had wanted disruption. They got it. But I had something stronger. I had trust. And trust builds empires.